Hey, hey, hey. It's Sylvia K. Alston. You are here at Next Nation, the podcast, honey. Thank you so much for being here and welcome. um, I love this show. I truly do. I love this podcast. I love doing this work. I love what it pulls out of me. I'll tell you, some days I show up to sit down at my computer and do this work, and my spirit is heavy. Some days my spirit is light. Some days I don't necessarily know what I'm feeling, but I do know that the conversations that happen here are therapeutic. They are galvanizing. They are helping me get through some stuff or some things that are, happening in my day to day, some in my personal and professional life. And I take this as an opportunity of respite. It is sometimes a lot of work to do, but when I am in the midst of it, it feels good. It does. It feels really, really good. And I enjoy having the opportunity to show up here and be more of my true self and talk to you in a way that provides fruit and knowledge and wisdom to kind of help you get through the things that you are going through as well. I am talking to a lot of people about a lot of different things. But this month, I wanted to spend some time around women's history, because I think that we have shaped Women's History Month in a way that not a lot of people understand the need or the desire or why we do this, but I think it's important. I do. I think it's important. I think it's important to focus and hone in and tell the stories of women who are sometimes play the supporting roles and play the background and play roles that you don't often hear about. It's important to focus, and hone in on stuff that women are thinking, right? So you can understand a bit more about why they become who they become, or why they are what they are, or how they show up and how they present in the ways in which they do. So we're spending time this month talking to women. We're talking to some fellas. I have an episode that just came out this week about Crack the Documentary with director Stanley Nelson. I hope you had an opportunity to listen to it. If not, please make sure you do. But it's a great story about a time period in our history that tore apart so many Black families, tore apart so many families, right? But what it did to the Black community, and how it took away, not only individuals and members of our families, but how it broke apart communities, right? And how you come back from that, how you rebuild the economy, I think is a great discussion. So if you haven't had an opportunity to listen to that, please listen to that episode. It's great. But this week, I am talking to, I went to the hood, y'all. I went to the hood. I reached out to my Morgan State University sister. I called my best friend, who's a chef and also a real estate agent. She's an entrepreneur in the Washington, D.C., Maryland area, the DMV area. Her name is Jamie Gadson, and we call her Chef Jamie. I reached out to her and I said, sis, did you have an opportunity to see the Meghan Markle interview with Oprah this past week? It was good stuff. And, I want to have a conversation with you about it. And she hadn't. Why? Because she has two businesses and she's been working her ass off. So she took the morning and watched the episode, and we had a conversation. And I also brought in Lolita Walker, who is a coach. And she's so many different things, honestly. She helps lead organizations to clear a space and pathways and to run better. She does that through her company, Walker and Walker Enterprises. She's also a TEDx speaker. She's an author, and she's working on her second book, which I know is going to be fabulous. And I invited Lolita into the conversation because Lolita and I have done some work together recently on Clubhouse, We've had some conversations around managing risk. And I think we're going to continue discussion because we just have great girl chat. So I talked to both of them about not just the Meghan Markle interview, but also about Women's History Month, women's issues, strength in the middle of vulnerability, how women have to show up, how Black women have to show up in corporate spaces and in personal relationships, how we stand up against sexism, and what that can sometimes do to the spirit. And so I hope you will stay on, listen to this interview. Give me your feedback, please. I need your feedback. It is very important to me that you not only share the episodes and let people know how to find us, but also if you've enjoyed an episode, give us a review and tell a friend, right? And send me an email. You can always email me to talk about episodes that you've enjoyed, or if this had any impact on your life. You can email me at hello@sylviakalston.com. You can find out more information about me on sylviakalston.com. And honey, if you need advice or a risk management advisor, I'll be hard pressed to tell you there's few in the industry like me. We do a great job, and I own a boutique insurance brokerage called Momentum Risk Management. We are doing the work for the people, and we work with successful individuals, families, businesses, nonprofits, organizations. So if you need an insurance broker, please look us up at www.momentum-risk.com. So with that, my conversation with Chef Jamie Gadson and Lolita Walker. I'm Sylvia Alston. This is Next Nation. Thank you for joining us, and share with a friend. Hey.
Hey.
Jamie, Lolita, welcome to Next Nation. So glad to have you ladies this week.
We're glad to be here.
Hey, ladies.
Hey, Lolita, how are you?
Really, really good. Can't complain. I'm excited to be here to have this conversation, honey.
Yeah, we're going to talk things through. So listen, we are in March, which is Women's History Month. We are celebrating all things divine feminine. I hope you ladies, this month has been going pretty well for you. Your energy is up. Business is booming. You both are two of my favorite entrepreneurs. So I definitely want to talk about business and branding and opportunities and that kind of stuff. But I saw something this past week that I said, I just want to talk over with spirit-led women of the traveling sister pants or whatever. AB. Okay, so this past Sunday, our good sis Auntie O came back to do what it is that she does best. Okay. Mm-hmm. And she sat down in her seat in Santa Barbara or Montecito or one of them beautiful cities out in California, from her perch, and had a conversation with Prince Harry and Miss Meghan Markle. It was a conversation. It was a conversation.
Lots of conversation, yeah.
That sparked lots of additional conversation. And so I've seen think pieces. I've seen, I've listened to radio shows. I've listened to critique on in social media. I've seen news outlets cover this. And I want to have my own conversation because I have my thoughts, Mm-hmm. And so I thought, let's have a conversation about what we saw this past week, and just kind of get the perspective and weigh in of two other very highly skilled and very thoughtful sisters of the Divine Traveling Sister Pants. Just give us some critique or thought around what you saw. So, ladies, I'll open the floor. What did you think?
Lolita, you go first.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, and I always have a thought. I always got a thought to put on the table. So a couple of things that I'll start with. one, Auntie O always comes correct, but I will tell you the interview style, a couple of times I yelled into the TV, like, stop cutting across them, Oprah, girl, I want to hear what they have to say. So I will say that, but the depth of it was good. I think for Women's Month specifically, there's a couple things that came out. We are so much stronger than what it is that we even think when we come to the table. So, as a Black woman, we suffer in so much silence, yet our exterior always shows up strong. And that is a problem, right? That is absolutely a problem. I'm glad she dug into. It was so many different things, but I say at the end of the day, congratulations for stepping into vulnerability, for stepping into bravery, and for saying, guess what? It is time for us to go and start the family based on the morals that we truly believe in. And I appreciate both of them for that.
I feel like it stood out to me in so many ways, and I really, I kept looking. There were a couple things I liked. I really loved that while Megan was very candid, she wanted to be also very poised and not smear everybody, because, and this is terrible, but the truth is a lot of the reasons why Black women are silenced is because the second we start to be real brutally honest, then we're mad, then we're angry, then we're this, the list goes on of what we are, right? And then it's easy to change the narrative to us lashing out versus what they did to me. And I think that move was kind of strategic on her part, which I liked. Because while, the rest of the world could yell out, no, say who it was, smear them. The problem with that is that now they're going to turn the tape. I like the fact that she left it in a space where, no, I want to keep the focus right on where it needs to be. I want to keep the focus right on, I want to keep showing how regal I am and how bad this situation is. So I appreciated that. I appreciated her honesty, of course. And I appreciate the fact that, one, they're about to have a little girl. So let's be clear. If the mother don't show a little girl how to be strong and also vulnerable and also, honest and standing her truth, who will? So to say, when her little girl or her son says, well, why aren't we XYZ? She can say, well, let me tell you what I stood up against. And let me tell you why I stood up against it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that she said, she wanted them to have that title, not because of the title, but because it's their birthright. And sometimes we have to just fight for what is our birthright. And whether we want it or not,
yes,
the fact that we have the option to dismiss it is the thing. That's the piece.
Yes, absolutely.
Come on, good sis. Listen. That was a brilliant hot take. And what I love about both of your thought processes is the two different takeaways from it. I thought there was so much key takeaway in this.
Yes.
So I'm not watching The Crown on Netflix. Are you watching?
I have not seen it. No,
I have seen pieces and bits.
I haven't seen it either. And so I had a conversation with one of my best friends, and she's like, girl, now that you've seen this, you have got to see The Crown, because it will start to put into place for you that hierarchy chart and the duty of the monarch, how they operate in the space of duty, how the queen has operated in the space of duty, how Charles comes behind that, you know what I mean? And then, next in line, William, next in line, Harry, how all of that comes into shape. But you're right. So much of what Megan did, she operated in the space of grace. She operated with the foreboding and the knowing of what's coming behind her, the legacy that she is creating, and that she's bringing another girl into the world, and just putting that into place, that her daughter will someday see. Because remember, as Megan was talking, I was sitting in the realization of things that Diana had said, and that she's no longer here and didn't get a chance to see both of her young men become men. And Harry spoke so eloquently about his mother, the loss of his mother, and what happened in the wake of losing his mother, and who he became out of all of that. You know what I mean? So knowing that she is pregnant and bringing forth life with a little girl, and
Yeah.
that little girl may have to experience, and seeing that this now will live in infamy that her mother spoke this way, and this and with this level of candor and grace about what she experienced will give her daughter something, I think, some legacy to hold on to. It was
And
beautiful.
so, and somebody posted, I thought was so cute. It's the leave and cleave for me. You know, the Bible says you got to leave your family and cleave to your wife. And the truth is, he is really honoring his mother by saying, I see the path. I
Yes.
see where this is going. You're not going to kill my wife. And
Yes.
I think that part of the problem that his dad has is really kind of jealousy, because he didn't have the strength or power to stand in his truth and to protect his wife, no matter what their relationship was, but to protect her from certain harm. And he's saying, oh, no. I'll make my own kingdom around my own family. This will be our kingdom. And I'm going to protect my children. I'm going to protect my wife. And that, for me, that was everything.
And you know what else he said out loud? He said, history will not repeat itself.
I know that's right.
That was so clear to me that he is like, Mama Diana, I see you. I feel you. I was there with you. And if you remember, her eyes always told this story of just this feeling of being trapped and sad, right? But what they have done for all of us is to step out and clarity on reshaping your narrative. How many did she say, wait, but the story wasn't told right?
Yeah.
Like they were now able to stand up and say, listen, this is the narrative. And I want to share that, because they're very strategic on what comes out. Not only strategic on what comes out, but guess what? There's parties where the tabloids come and shape stories. And she had no protection. How many times did you hear the word protection inside of you? And how many times have any of us felt isolated in our own space with nobody to talk to? Imagine going up 15 levels. Imagine going to someone and saying, I need help. I know it doesn't look good, but I need help. I need somebody to come in here. I'm feeling sad. I feel I want to take my life. I'm having these thoughts.
Yeah.
Say, figure it out. Then you tell your husband, and he says, okay, boo, I got you. Let me go talk to them because I see you. I'm part of this thing. Let me now do it. And then to get shut down and be like, nope, we're not doing that. Imagine him now feeling like, well, hold up. Right? I am a part of this family. And how dare. And so I love it. It was the whole, we are team and we are
and protecting Black women. I mean, like, that is the biggest, protect women, but protect Black women. Like, that is to me, the theme song of this year or this season, honestly. It has been a theme song for this season. Protecting them mentally, protecting them physically has been, an issue in recent times. And so I like that this also, she's putting it on a pedestal. Like when you kept hearing Oprah say, what do you mean by protection? And, when we think of the word protection, so often we think of a physical, someone attacking us physically and a man coming to swoop in and save us. Or even like you said, Lolita, him protecting her in a way where he went to speak on her behalf. It's not necessarily physical, but in their case, it does get physical because there is such a swarm of, you know what I mean? So it's almost like taking a thought or something that is not tangible and turning it into a representation of what it really means. We've been saying protect Black women all of this time, and people see it as such an abstract thought. Now you get to see it tangibly, what it means on a higher scale.
For sure. I thought it was a hyper visualization of what we've been talking about for generations,
Yeah.
It was a visual presentation of the kind of damage that we have seen done to Black women for centuries. And nobody speak up or come and get them and save them. And what it also did for me was I tweeted on Wednesday, I said, let's sit back. We all have a royal family. Let's sit back and look into our own families and realize the times that we allowed toxicity and dysfunction,
and silence.
And silence to go on because of tradition.
Yep.
This is
I
what
mean,
we this is what we do traditionally. I can't tell grandmama she's wrong. I can't tell granddaddy he's wrong, or I can't speak up to my mother or my father because this is what we've always done. This is my bloodline, and you are
yeah,
coming in as my husband or my wife and
Mm.
experiencing this, but this is part of our cultural tradition. This is what we do. And then I loved that they said that they, in their primary family, they are going to create what the new level of tradition or the new level of
yeah,
responsibility
Yes.
is for their
yeah,
primary family. I think they gave a textbook case for so many people who may not, be
yeah,
decorated in regalia, right? Or a
yeah,
part of the monarchy, but it still spoke to the fact that sometimes we need to cut off tradition.
Yep.
Sometimes
yeah,
we need to cut ties with certain family members. Sometimes we need to speak out and say, you know what, this has persisted for generation after generation, but it stops with me. The buck
Mhm.
stops
yes.
with me. I'm not going to allow this to progress any way, shape, or form forward.
And it makes me, what it reminds me, it puts me in the mind of speaking to what you're saying about things we've done generationally, is it makes me think of like physical and sexual abuse. And then what do they say? She a fast tail girl. And
Mhm.
it's that turn, it's that pivot from the aggressor who should be penalized
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
making the victim be the issue.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
now she's tearing down the kingdom. Now she's doing this, even though she was a victim. And like you said, in our families, we didn't speak up. People were raped.
Yep.
Young were raped by uncles and fathers and grandfathers and all this kind of stuff. And she was fast. She was too fast, and she needed to look different, and she needed to act different. And that's how we silenced in that day. She was
Yeah.
too fast. So we made her fast and him correct. And then we honored the hierarchy and shunned who we thought was disposable.
You
Mhm.
know what I really loved about the interview as well is that they both were very clear that we speak to the queen on a regular basis. Our relationship is great. Our relationship is solid. And I believe that. I believe that in a space where they are, they want to make sure that it's very clear the people who fundamentally feel that how they do and are supporting them. And then I think it was strategic to your point, Jamie, of not to necessarily call out anyone. And I agree with that because that's not what you're here for. She was
Mhm.
clear that this narrative that we're putting out today is about how our family are starting these traditions and stepping out from somewhere, a foundation that we don't fundamentally believe in. And another
Mhm.
I absolutely loved is that what we could see was Harry's eyes opening up a little bit more. Now he's always been
Mhm.
family, and I love it.
Yeah.
But now what he got perspective to now was a
Yeah.
little bit more like, well, wait a minute. I'm telling you that this queen, my wife is feeling this way. Right? Up is feeling this way. I'm coming to you for help. You said no, but then you even asked me about the shade of the baby. Now I think that his eyes and the lenses are shaping up a little.
Yeah.
Yes, I've been in these conversations with people where they say, well, she should have known what she was walking into. And I challenge that. Yes, she knew she was going to a royal family, but if you also listen, she had to figure out a curtsy. Like in real life, I thought that was only like what we see on TV. There were things
Mhm.
you don't know until you know. And I believe that this came, we're not there. And I can only imagine the amount of pressure that happens overnight. And you can't imagine that, let alone feel isolated in it. I'm here for
And
it.
also, I mean, I would agree with you in challenging it that, okay, so let's say you did know your mate is an open, loving, accepting human being, and you don't think, well, this is him, but they're totally opposite than that. You think the world doesn't know them, like they don't know him. And I see him for who he is. And so we're going to go in here and we're all going to, and also, her life was ordained to go ahead and expose this. So it's not that you know what you're walking into, so you accept it. It's you know what you're walking into, so you change it.
Mhm. Mhm. I agree.
We know what we're walking into when we walk into corporate, society, when we walk into a corporate office building, when we walk into a boardroom, looking across from people who don't look anything like us, but we don't dare not walk in. We walk in and we change their thoughts. We walk in and we excel. And that's what you should do.
Yeah. You walk in and you learn.
But
yeah.
But also the thought is, right, they believe that you walk into those organizations, those monarchs, those spaces, and that you melt in, or you
Yeah.
just become
Yep.
what the culture of the
Yep.
organization of,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, has always been.
Yeah. Even though we've seen it's deadly.
Even though we know, you know, when we identify, hey, this don't feel right. This does not feel right to me. You know,
Yeah.
we noticed it just when Black women do that, though, we are ostracized. I mean, when she was talking about the avocado toast, like just the difference. And I thought what I did think that Oprah did so skillfully was to show the difference in the media coverage
Yes.
of both Kate
Yeah.
as well as Megan,
Yeah.
almost at the same points. Every time they experienced something that was the exact same thing,
Yeah.
the way the media did it with Kate, you know, she
Yeah.
was the darling of everything. And
Holding her belly.
holding her belly. That one was key for me. Like
Yeah.
she's obsessed with her belly. You know, when you are pregnant and when you are bringing forth life, there's gas, there's kicking, there's all kinds of things that are happening, even when you are in the midst of doing delegation royal things. There are sometimes you just gotta rub your belly and be like, quiet down there, little Susie. Now I gotta get
Right.
but to take that and make it evil, you know what I mean? It was just like, to me, I was like, these people, these people.
But also, like, think about all these cameras. So even if nothing was going on physically, there's a protection you do. Like, even if you walk through a crowd, like with your teenager, there's a protection you grab for their arm, right? You grab, bring them closer to you because you see all of this going on. So some of that is there's 100 people around us taking 100 pictures, and I'm holding on. If I fall, if I trip, if they run into me, if they, you know, physically reach out to me, now I'm protecting my baby. Like, why wasn't that seen as protection? Because they had lack of it.
And then when she said, I think what was truly key for me is when they said they took my protection away.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that rang off so many levels to me, because that is what they do.
Yes.
Whenever you confront or expose the racism or the sexism or what you're going through, not only will they not cover you, they will expose you to the world.
Yeah, buddy.
It will expose you to the world. So there were so many instances where I was just, I was just sitting in it and I was like, like this is doing all kinds of things to me. But I could see the everyday woman in that struggle.
Absolutely.
I could see the everyday sister in that struggle, you know, things that we go through in terms of being business owners and brand owners. And I want to spin it away from just the royal conversation, because I think there's another level of royal conversation that we can have. You know, I think what they did expertly was show us ourselves, was show us our culture. You know, it was to show us, you know, who we have been, you know. And when I listened to just the response of, you know, so many white folks, their
Bethany,
baby,
Bethany,
it was like, you know, it was, how dare you speak against what we've always done. And even in the Royal Palace's statement, they pretty much said, you know, if you decoded that, and I tweeted about that too, I said the Royal Palace's statement decoded is, yes, we did all that shit. You know, essentially what they were saying. They did all of it. And
and y'all fine to go ahead and go about your business.
And even, but I also thought that what you heard in their statement was a realization. They said, while some recollections may vary, you know, we do realize, you know, they couldn't even do the media spin that we're used to seeing them do, because this was just too damaging. And that a Black woman was able to do that, I thought was, a feather in her cap. But let's spin it, because, you know, I think, like I said, I thought that was a hyper visualization of what so many of us experience inside of our families, inside of organizations, inside of corporate cultures, inside of businesses. And I think that's what has led many of us to go out on our own and do our own thing, right? Because we want to step away from all of that toxicity. And in the month of March, and in women's history, I think it's an important time to have the conversation about where Black women find themselves, where women find themselves in 2021, to make their situations better. And speaking up and not being silent, I think, is one of the conversations that we definitely should have.
Hands down and around. I think that it comes with courage. Oftentimes I say, listen, whenever we show up, there's courage to the left and the right of us. And sometimes we got to look down, we got to pick those things up and use it as an armor to walk into fear. And I can only imagine the fear, right, of going against a system, right? That's what we're talking about, going against a system, and that could be corporate. How many of us show up to work inside of a corporate space every single day, right? Every single day, if you can remember back to the time, because we're all business owners, but if you can remember back to the time showing up and needing to grab courage to have conversations, to get your point across, to then reiterate something that was your point originally, right? Out of a meeting and listen to somebody say the words that you've already crafted from a presentation that was already there. And now you be able to articulate it. How many times have we walked there and challenged the system? Take a look at our entrepreneurship, especially this month, and we're right off the cusp of Black History Month. We show up. And this face is one of traditionally, generationally, ancestrally strength, hands down. But I think the silence that we have to break is making sure that you can speak your truth, right? Speak out loud what it is that you're feeling. And now what am I going to do? What is the help that I need in order to move forward? And if people can't give you that you're surrounded around, you've got to choose to move on over and move over so that now you can surround yourself with other folks that are going to help you on your journey. And I think that's exactly what it is that they did. And that's exactly what you see women doing now as they shape their businesses, right?
Yeah. And I think you're spot on. It's all of that. I mean, I worked for a national security organization. I'm not going to say, look, I'm going to be Megan and not slaughter them. But but I had many conversations with my boss that showed up in different rooms where I wasn't, nor was I ever accredited for that idea or a system of thinking. But, one thing that I wanted to speak to is that the truth is, this is what I think a lot of people don't realize about racism and sexism, is that it isn't just a corporate idea. Like, it is built into every system. So even when you're going out on your own, I started a catering business. I'm also a real estate agent. There are places in this state and counties that are tailored towards a certain group of people, characteristic, white people, as the internet says, white people, and the systems they have in place to keep my buyers out, to not let us see it during certain times. There was a gentleman the other day when I took some of my clients, who are, by the way, veterans, which, they honor, right? Took them to see a home in a primarily white neighborhood. It was a challenge for us to get an appointment. It was a challenge for them to let us in when we got there. And this right here took me back to a March. I mean, it took me back decades. When we got to their home to do the home inspection, the owner was there with his dog and said, y'all can come in. Excuse me? No mask, his dog barking. What that sound like to you? So I said, y'all wait in the car. Excuse me, sir. I said, my clients, first of all, it's COVID. My clients are not comfortable coming into your home with your dog. While we walk around and inspect your home, they cannot feel free to say what they want and do what they want. And he looked at me like, how dare you have the audacity? And he said, well, I just got in with my groceries, so I'm going to put all my groceries away, even though we were scheduled for that 3-hour time. And then I might say, I guess I'll take my dog for a walk. I said, that's exactly what you should do. And as he walked out, he said, there's a lot of theft around here. with a Lamborghini in the driveway. And I say all that to say, the systems that are in place are so much bigger than a corporate work environment. They're so much bigger than, I mean, you're right. We left these industries so that we can have more freedom, but we are still every day, even being our own business, just getting a catering license. It's systemic. You know, getting my catering license, you have to have certain things that a lot of Black people don't own. I'm fortunate enough to have access to certain things, but there are a lot of Black people who are catering outside of their state requirements because they don't have the access to get the state requirements. Even the applications during this time of COVID, the PPP loans, a lot of people weren't educated to the fact that sole proprietors couldn't get this loan if you didn't have especially the free loans you didn't have to pay back if you didn't have employees, but they weren't educated enough to know that you should have set yourself up as a different entity so that when it came time, but they knew. And we didn't. And so here are the systems that are still in place, even though we work for ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, when information meets opportunity. It's when information meets opportunity. There's gaps in both of them for us.
Yeah.
And opportunity. And when we don't have one or the other, or quite frankly, when we don't have both, we can't in places because we don't even know that the table exists. So even create a table, it's that information or opportunity that is the gap. And that's why I say the key to me is always sharing your story, because you never know who hears it. And if you don't articulate what it is that you need, no one can hear you. So surround yourself with people, tap into people. There's nothing wrong with asking. I tell people all the time, stop thinking that there's a fear in asking. You don't look weak for that, right? That's the strength, so you can get that information and now allow it to meet the opportunity that is there for you. And that's exactly what you were talking about, Jamie. That's exactly what Sylvia and I were talking about when we talked about risk. It's all of that, all balanced together. And this is how we're showing up. Welcome to Women's History Month. We ain't playing around no more.
Hey, listen to me. This season has been a season of cleansing, and it's exactly that. We ain't playing no more. It's about cleansing, showing up, learning, and using what you've learned.
And listen, not only that, we're not playing anymore because we can't. And I think that's what the pandemic exposed us. It exposed us to. There is absolutely no time. Of course, there's bias in all of our systems, and it can be applied across race and across sexism, but it is our responsibility to learn these systems and learn how to operate within them so that we can change them, and not only change them, utilize them to our advantage. What you're talking about, Jamie, with the PPE loans and not having employees and being set up as a sole proprietor, it was the same thing when the GI Bills were set up and the new or the New Deals were set up, and they excluded certain classes of workers out of that deal. Well, the classes of workers that they excluded out of that were domestics and farmers. And who was that? Those were Black folks, right? And so it's all of those things that have kept us outside of the wheelhouse of building equity, of building wealth, of being able to access certain programs. But we have to understand, we have to educate ourselves, we have to understand these parameters, and then we have to learn how to float inside of them. And then as business owners also, and I want to tell you a story when we come back from break, but as business owners also, it becomes our responsibility to challenge, to learn, utilize professional services and systems. One of the things that I think that I really learned in this time of COVID is how many Black businesses were operating without the utilization of professional services. Utilize accountants, utilize insurance brokers. How about get somebody to advise you on what your business will need, on what you'll need personally. Get a lawyer, start to get some advice. It's necessary to have those people in your pocket so that when things like this happen, you're not left out of the conversation. But we're up against we're going to take a quick break, pop right back into the conversation. I have a story for you guys. And you know what? I was a little bit nervous or uncomfortable about this story, but I'm gonna share it when we come back.
Yes.
I am Sylvia Austin. This is Next Nation of Podcast, honey. And I am just really enjoying this conversation. It's Women's History Month. I am here with Chef Jamie Gadson. She's also a real estate agent in the Maryland area, as well as Lolita Walker of the Walker Group, baby. We'll be right back.
I'm Noah.
And I'm Ava.
And you're listening to our mom,
Sylvia K. Austin on Next Nation, the podcast. Yes, sir.
So, ladies, what I wanted to say to you when we talk about, I think we talk often, like you said, Lolita, we're on the heels, coming away from Black History Month. And now we're in Women's History. Now we're in Women's History Month for the month of March. And what I think I've realized, or it has become very recently, very prevalent for me, that the conversation around racism shapes or walks itself right into the conversation around sexism.
Absolutely.
Right. Especially Black womanism, right? So,
which is separate. So I'm glad you said
separate.
That.
It is separate from your traditional feminist issues. It's a different layer of in the way in which we need to have that conversation. So I want to be pensive to that. But something happened to me recently. There is a magazine article that is going to come out in the next few weeks, months. I don't know. We've been talking about doing this for a while, but it appears that a magazine article is going to come out. And it has information about me and my company. And the editor and the writer of the article were Black men. And the article was not just about me. It was about a couple of different people. But it was written and edited by two Black men, two older Black men. Mm-hmm. And so when the first edit of the article showed up and I was asked for my edits and reviews of the article, I was very uncomfortable. And I haven't seen the final piece that will show up, but I was very uncomfortable with what came out of that first edit. And I'll tell you that the reason that I was uncomfortable is because most of the conversation had been changed from the original discussion that was had to only show the value in the man in the instance of the conversation. And I was kind of like pushed down. There was, and I asked, because the editor sent the article to the man in the group and asked him to disseminate the rest of the information to us for our review and our edits. And I was asked, what my thoughts were about the article. And I'll be honest with you, I was not pleased. Mm-hmm. And I was not pleased to the point of that I said, you know what, I'd almost rather be removed. Because this is not a glowing representation of who I am or the work that I've put in to arrive to this space. And so it was suggested that I talk to the editor. So I reached out to the editor, and the editor is an aging, elderly Black man, right? And so I want to be, I'm in my Meghan Markle moment, right? I want to be sensitive to, I don't want to out him in any particular way, but we had a conversation that further let me know that my value, he couldn't completely see it.
Yeah.
And when he began to edit the pieces of the article that he thought were important, he used most of the opportunity in the article where he shaved information off on it was about me. And it created this sense of insecurity inside of me. And I had to challenge myself on what those insecurities were. The journalist, the writer of the article, I spent hours with him. I took time away from my day to spend hours with him, giving him all kinds of pertinent information about myself, and he messed it up. And it made me think. I was like, well, when people give me information about themselves, I'm always careful to make sure I'm recording correctly so that I tell the story right. I'm not saying I'm not capable of a mistake. Sure, we all are. But the way in which the story came together, it didn't sound like the 2 hours of time that I had spent or lent
Mhm.
the writer of this article, and then the editor took it upon himself to further shade down conversation or that information that was necessary about me. And I said, why is this creating this feeling inside of me? Why is it creating this insecurity? And I was like, I've worked so damn hard to get to where I am, and that I expect that if I'm talking to a mainstream publication, I expect them to get it wrong. But when I'm talking to my people,
Mhm.
I'm expecting you to see my value. And that I
Mhm.
had to fight through that for you to see me, to see who I am, and then to keep pushing, to make you honor that and bring more information about me into the article. It took something out of the entire article for me, right?
Mhm.
And I said
Mhm.
to myself, women go through this all the time. We are always asked to be humble, to have humility, to don't speak too loud, to don't advocate in a certain way for ourselves. And then what it presented was right after that, a Facebook memory popped up. Right after this happened, a Facebook memory popped up. And it was a Facebook memory of me and my daughter at 4 years old. And she was applying makeup or attempting to. She was applying makeup to my face. And in that video, I say to her, "You're doing a great job." And she says, "I know." And I say to her, "Be humble."
Mm.
And it was a memory from 4 years ago. And I said, I needed to go through that experience
Mhm.
to see where I, in my own walk and journey,
Yeah.
also push forward those systems of patriarchy.
Yeah.
To
Mhm.
instead of telling my daughter to be great, I tell her to be humble.
Mhm.
I needed to see that visualization. And that's the
Mhm.
way my life is kind of like showing up for me right now. Like it's
Yeah.
like just like dropping all these like little nuggets and fruit
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
cherries of wisdom to not repeat in the next
Yes.
generation things that I allowed and that for too often as a now 44-year-old woman that I'm bucking up against,
Yeah.
that I allowed as a girl, things
Yeah.
that I allowed as a teenager, things that I allowed as a young woman. So I
Mhm.
just wanted to bring that to you, like in this month of March,
Yes.
what I want for women, after a year of, this year, I mean, when we think about this is the week
Yeah.
where the world
Yes.
stopped just 1 year ago.
Yeah.
Think
Yep.
about all of the spaces and the places and the relationships and the systems in your life that are not working or that have not allowed you to be who you are fully and
Right.
find your voice and find your way to challenge those systems because it's time.
Girl, woo. So, Lord, I look. It's so much to say about that. Look, were you ready? Look, I don't really want to over.
No, go ahead, girl.
Because
The
it
sister girl
just
chat.
listen. Because it took me out of here on so many levels. Because for me, I mean that story, first of all, is one of millions. And I'm glad you told it because
Yes.
it's important. And a lot of times, like you said, we don't want to overstep or overexert or come off because let's be clear, it's not just the world that calls us angry Black women. It's Black men that call us angry Black women. And sometimes for some of them, it's their reason why they date outside of their race because we're so angry. But I heard someone say, yes, I am angry. And if you're not angry, then something's wrong with you because you should be.
Right.
Because of what's happening, because of what I've been through. If that doesn't anger you, then you don't have the amount of compassion towards me that you should.
Mhm.
So, and don't get me wrong, I know a whole lot of Black men that honor their wives, they honor their sisters and queens, but there is a group of Black men who do feel like we are too assertive and that's why they can't deal with us and we're too sassy and we demand too much and that being said, we're people don't understand, kind of like what Oprah said, were you silent or were you silenced? That line is so very thin.
Yes.
It's so very thin, and it doesn't always show up as somebody saying, no, don't say that. It shows up in just a how dare you. That could just be the slightest pause before they respond. It shows up in the not changing what I asked you to change. So it shows up in such a small way. That line is paper thin between being silent and being silenced. And we don't often have the space to say, or don't feel like we have the space. Let me say that, because there's also a moment where in certain environments, they just pivot and shut you out. You know what I mean? So you're also walking that line. But during COVID, especially, one thing I wanted to speak to is a lot of women said to me, oh, you're doing okay because you have a husband. And sis, let me tell you, good sis, my husband lost his job during COVID, and I pivoted my business in a way where I made the same amount I made before COVID. And that was all this Black woman right here.
Amen.
But it's not just men. It's not just old men. It's not just white men. Yeah. It's not just Black women. It is also women who feel, which is why some women are so obsessed with the idea of marriage, because they feel that until this man comes in union with me, I've heard people say, I can't wait till I get married so I can buy a house. I can't wait till I get married so I can start my business. I can't wait till I get married until X, Y, Z. And it is a constant pressure and system. And for me, who is so super, strong and outspoken, and I'm fighting for my community, and I'm fighting for the farmers, and I'm fighting for chefs and all of this stuff, for you to say to me, if I didn't have a husband, I've been doing this before my husband existed. So there are women who think that. And so when you have the pressure of the whole society saying, without this man, like you're saying, even with your business, I may partner with someone, my brother is a chef. He and I partner on things all the time. I can't tell you the amount of people that reach out to him directly and he says, call my sister because she runs the business, but they call him because they assume that and he says, no, you got to talk to my sister because she runs a bit. He doesn't come to me and say, what should I tell him? He says, no, you got to talk to my sister. And I honor him for being that way, because he lets them know, like, look, whatever. We get in that kitchen and we have these big events, that people pay all this money to come to. He comes out and he'll say, what's up? But I can't come out because I'm in there hustling. And he'll say, no, I couldn't do this without my sister. So, but they gravitate towards him because that's what we've been taught. And like you said, Sylvia, I know my mom will watch this, but she won't mind me saying this because Ava is a lot like me in that she challenges you, and I challenge my mother, throughout my life. And at some point it was seen as being bad, but as we
evolving.
As we grew together, me and my mother, she started to say, you really show me things. But there was a time when I would have conversations with her because, we would always do this. Oh, she all loud, her big head, her this and this, that. Oh, look at them big old legs you got, and all this stuff. And I had to tell my mom, those things made me feel insecure when I was younger. And when I went to school, I wanted this validation from someone because I felt insecure. And so when my kids were small, and my mom and auntie and all them be, oh, look at her. Oh, she got a big head. I would say, no. We're not going to say that to my daughter because we're going to tell her that she has everything she needs, that she can wear whatever she wants, that she don't have to look like this person, that we're going to tell her all of that. So when she gets to school or gets to work or gets to whatever, that she doesn't have a problem saying this is wrong. And I don't care if you don't agree with me. And I don't mind if you think I look awkward. And I don't care if you think I'm too skinny. But she can't have that backbone if we tell her this all day. If we tell her to be quiet, if we tell her to be more humble, if we tell her you're too loud, if we tell her, she challenges us in a respectful way, don't get it twisted. But if she challenges us in a respectful way and we don't accept the conversation to rethink, how do we let her know that it's okay to challenge a system that's in place in a respectful way and get a change? How do we teach that without doing it?
Come on, Lolita.
Yeah, I was just listening to yes, 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 Jamie, to all of it, right? We are challenged and we face so many different things now, especially generationally. I think to go back to Sylvia's story just really quickly is one, good for you for calling out what it is that you did see. Because as we talk about being silenced and then us in return being silent, you didn't allow that to happen. And I think the first is one, talking about it here. Two is that you challenge the status quo, which we also talked about. But three, you also then looked internally. But now the challenge is, and this is what I think I heard, is that oftentimes when folks want to cut us out of our value that we've already added, and that can come in the form of a conversation written, that can come in the form of so many different ways, right?
Yeah.
As women, especially as Black women.
Mm-hmm.
When people want to cut out that piece of you and you go back and challenge that, sometimes it challenges what their own mentality is.
Yeah.
Choosing what they're going to do forward. But the beauty of it that we got to remember, because sometimes it could shake us to the jolt, right? And make us think the value that we stand upon. And I always firmly believe that we always need to affirm ourselves every day. There's got to be something. And I'm talking about faith. There's got to be our faith and our strengths that absolutely are there to hold us up, because every day is a challenge. And you don't even know what that paper is going to say when it does come out, that publication. But what you do know is the value that you gave for those 2 hours. And the issue might not even be like every single thing is imprinted. The issue is the context that you gave for the value of who you are is showing up. That is the challenge. And that is not a Sylvia issue. That is another issue.
Well, let me now, because Lolita, you and I talked about this in another, we did a conversation on Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Talking about minimizing risk.
Yeah.
And let me add another layer of conversation to this. What they also did was
I can see the hurt. I can see it.
They edited me on, they photoshopped me on the image to make me look smaller on one side. And so for me, the visualization is that the issue, the reason why you thought it was okay to minimize my contribution, why you thought it was okay to reduce the amount of information that comes out about me, or my worth and value in this issue, is because you think I'm overweight. That this is what you can do to Black women who are overweight.
Right.
But for some reason, my size then maybe lends question to whether or not I did that shit, or whether or not I am that bitch, which for me further adds a dimension of disgust. Because again, let me say, I expect this in mainstream. I expect this in mainstream. I will not say what publication this is, but I will tell you that for me, these are my people.
Yeah.
For this to happen amongst my people, when I've always shown up, when I've always given a coin, when I've always represented, when I've always mentored, when I've always given back, for you to do that when the scope of Black womanhood, okay, across the diaspora is that I am actually quite the norm.
Right.
So for you to do that to me says that you still have an issue
for sure
that you've not yet dealt with.
Absolutely.
And that for me just kind of puffed up all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah.
And it's hurtful.
Yeah.
It's hurtful because for me, you know, there's even a line in the article where my parents are discussed. And they even messed up the information that I gave about my parents. And I'm like, my daddy is no longer here. But there's a way in which I expect my parents, if you're going to talk, if you're going to state what I said about my parents, then state it correctly. And
Yeah.
what I said about my parents is that my mother was a lifelong educator and that my father was a chief steward of the postal service, but they went to work every day with a spirit of activism. And that spirit of activism was taught to me very early. And that is who I became. And so I felt as if in that article in life, activism for me means fighting. But you do get to a space and you do get to a time where you get tired of
Yes.
always having to fight. And so when
Yeah.
you have to fight your own,
Yes.
for them to see your value, it's like, come on, y'all. Damn,
Right.
I gotta do this with everybody. I have to do this with y'all too. It's like,
Yep.
that was the thing that for me, I was like, you know what? I almost would rather y'all leave me the hell out of it.
Yep.
'Cause
Because
if
I don't want to
y'all-
perpetuate the idea. I don't want to perpetuate what you're perpetuating.
No, and I'm going to tell you one other thing about this publication. There are so many pieces to this puzzle. There are so many amazing women and men in our age group who are overshadowed by stories because of who's telling them.
Yep.
So the magazine itself is so much older than a lot of the body or the readership would have you believe, and it's because who's narrating, who's editing, who's telling the story. And so what happens is people don't see themselves and they bow out.
Right.
Yes, this is why it's so important for us to share our stories. Like we talked about Megan in the beginning, we're talking about you right now, is to put the narrative back where it absolutely belongs.
Right.
Of this publication, right? Miss the best of you. I say absolutely show up inside of that publication, because what it will do for you is to bring people awareness of who you are. They might not have gotten the whole story, but what we do know by name is the badness that you show up in every single day. Google me, right? Google you. That's it. So I say, you know what? You missed the best set of me. You missed the publication that I would have done on behalf of this article because it was so good. You've missed those opportunities. But what I do have now is the power of my own platform.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what I can do specifically and intentionally today and every day from here on out on Next Nation is that you are able to talk your story. And that's that S I was talking about as we stand up. That is about sharing your story intentionally and on purpose, because now not only are you going to have these listeners wondering, right, what is the story that Sylvia has for us? Will continue to listen because you share it every single time you show up. And what the deficits, the inconsistencies, the inefficacy, right? All of that they are displaying over there to narrow you in a way, figuratively.
I love how you did
figuratively, to narrow you in a way is to already tell me that when you look at me, you've missed the best of me too. Is when you look at me, you dare not even look beyond the appearance of who you think you see, right? And 3, there's no way that you got the inside right because you missed what was right in your face.
Yeah.
So I'm replaying those things back to you because, you know, society, our people, other people can get into our heads when we got all these other things going on and cause us to question this because our mama did this and this person didn't. Stop it all. Because you are showing up. We are showing up. All of us are showing up now. And guess what? Our own spaces, because we are creating the narrative. And I'm going to drop the water bottle right there. Bam.
Boom. Yeah, that was so good. Both of y'all. That was so good. Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate it. I do. I appreciate it. Because you know what? I think you need, we talked about this. You need
board of directors.
You need a board. You need a board. Women, strong women who want to do something great in their lives. If there's any takeaway from this discussion, you need a board of women who will challenge you, who will you. I heard you say that. Now here's what I want to tell you about that. Well, I heard that, and here's what I want to say to you about that. Jamie is on my board. Lolita, I'm about to add you to my board. I'm about to
listen.
I'm in.
Jamie is a member of my tribe and has been a member of my tribe. for we're approaching 27 years in this thing.
Yeah,
But,
buddy.
but that's what it is. It's
Mhm.
about friendship. It's about sisterhood. It's about
Yeah.
calling a thing. It's about accountability. It is
Right.
about showing up,
Yeah.
in our lives and doing the work. And I appreciate you both for doing that for me. I do.
And you are so welcome. And I just wanted to say one last thing. Like, one thing I do when Sylvia and some of our other good girls get together is I always say, what do you feel like nobody ever sees about you that you want to tell us? Because we don't feel seen.
Yeah.
And when someone chooses to do what they did to you, it further acknowledges the fact that the gym pop don't see us. You know what I mean? They don't see us, not like they should. And like Lolita said, it's so important for us to just keep telling it, keep showing up, keep challenging it so that they can see eventually, and enough people, because like you said, when you have publications of this platform, this is how you perpetuate the narrative. This is why a woman standing in her own self could say to another woman, you wouldn't be able to do this without a husband, because this is the narrative that's pushed forward. That's why it's important for us to keep showing up just like we are, whatever size we are, whatever height we are, whatever our hair look like, whatever we feel like doing to it, so they can see that this greatness is standing in every form of us, in every shade of us, in every shape of us, in every color of us, in every texture of our hair. This greatness is showing up. And every single time, that we see someone showing up that looks like us. There's another young lady that looks like us that said they didn't think they could do that, that felt like they couldn't do that, I know women who wouldn't cut their hair because their husband liked long hair. You know what I mean? Just saying like, well, look at her with a bald headed self, somebody's wife. Just all of these things. Look at her with a thick, luscious self. Look at her with a bony self, or whatever it is that they call us. We can do all of those things, and we are all of those things. And we got to keep showing up and reminding them, hey, we all of those things. Look at this. I wish you would thin me down. No, because it wasn't a thin her that did it. It was this one. Okay. It was this one. It was me carrying this weight and carrying this weight.
Yes.
Because that's the part you missing. I'm carrying this weight because I'm carrying this weight.
Yes.
Lift some of it off of me and watch me fly more.
Yeah. I love that. I love
sisters. Come on.
Around. I just real quick. I know we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
I know we do. There's got to be a sequel.
It's good though.
I know it's so good, but because of this whole notion of angry Black woman, literally, y'all, I wrote a poem on it, because the notion of dear, it's called Dear Angry Black Woman, but the notion of you perceive me as angry, and now watch me show up. Show you what that looks like, because you construed what it is that society has told you or what you want to believe. Now watch me show up. And I say that because labels that we throw on people, we don't have to catch them at all. Matter of fact, get educated and then continue to move forward.
Right.
And you can choose to educate. You can choose if it's worth your time, right? If it's worth your energy, if it's worth your resource. And some people aren't worth that much, right? Or for the conversation. But watch how I'm going to show up. This angry Black. Watch me.
So if you have the poem with you, I would love to hear it before y'all go.
Sure. I'll read it to you. I have it right here, actually. All right. And it's in my upcoming second book, which is coming out this year. Amen. Amen.
Yes.
Enterprises.
Come on.
All right. It's called Dear Angry Black Woman. Dear Angry Black Woman, can we talk? May misconstrue how you show up, but please believe that this will never be me. Your passion evokes confidence for what, where, and how you deserve to be. See, I stop by as a witness that you always stand firm and stand bold, yet occasionally hide your true self behind a societal mold that tries to force you to grab hold of this stereotype that blasts in stereo, right? Some will label you as angry. and it will follow you wherever you go. Some will treat you as an outcast because they simply don't yet know that within you is a ball of insistence and intentional resistance, a power woman who has created an inward and outward fence because you have already hurdled many defeats. These obstructions may leave a scar and is not for the weak, but did you know that Black History Month originally started as only a week? Dear angry Black woman, you are stronger than even you may dare to know. The inequities and disparities that you endure each day mounts with pressure and increased obstacles that stand in your way. They don't know the emotion that may spawn from the passion that you feel. They don't know that this angry Black woman marches with confidence uphill. What I want you to know as you read this right here and right now is that you are a strong Black woman who will no longer hide from fear. See, tell them not to assume who you are, nor allow this stereotype to misguide their intent, because you, dear angry Black woman, are on a mission that is God sent. See, I want you to walk with your head held high, no matter the circumstance that you are within. Then channel your angry to action, look them dead in their face, let them know that at this pace, this sassy Black woman that you don't even know will continue to shatter ceilings and still help you grow. See, I'll educate and empower, still challenge the norm, but to this label you want to attach to me, nope, I will never conform. Dear angry Black woman, can we talk? This is to you from me. I love you, Lolita.
I love it. It was everything.
Yes.
I love.
First said on the Next Nation podcast.
Hey, we need to end with that.
I loved it. I loved it. There was so many rubles. There was just so many gems, girl, and just jewels just dropped all throughout that. I'm gonna end it there. And not only am I going to end it there, I'm going to charge you guys because we've got to have this. We've got to have another discussion. I love y'all so much. Like this was so natural. This was and it came together so just like unexpected. So and that's honestly when my best work comes forward. I promise you. When I just say, hey girl, you got a few minutes. Like I just need to just then the best comes forward. And I just thank you both. You know, I didn't write a treatment for this discussion. I just asked two people that I know and knew could show up in this way to be here. And both of you showed up and listen, I just Ashe, I bless you both for it. I appreciate you. So go forth, go out to the world, and I will talk to y'all soon. I love you. Keep being great.
Absolutely. We love you too. Love you, girl.
The Morgan State University. They ain't ready.
Right. A Black University.
See you in the house. All right. I love y'all. Bye. Bye. I'm your host, Sylvia Austin. This is Next Nation. We'll see you again soon. Thank you for joining us and thank you for listening.
Next Nation, the podcast, would like to thank Sphere Podcast Studios in Houston, Texas, under the direction of Gary Lee. Our creative launch team, Latif Harris, Devon Warren, Emo Rice, Tiffany Thompson, Tanisha Malone, Hugh Cardis. Music production by Jean-Pierre Zephyr. My writing coach, Linda Jones of The Writing Doula. Spiritual leader, Reverend Timothy Atkins Jones. And finally, my family, my husband and associate producer, James J. Alston. Thank you, honey, for all of your love and support of this effort. My mom, Shirley Key. Mommy, I love you forever and always. And finally, my children, Noah and Ava Alston, who also act as junior producers for Next Nation, the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you soon.